But first on 6 at 5 o'clock, a horrible tragedy in Arkansas. It happened at a camping area packed with vacationing families where the number of people killed by flash flooding is still climbing this evening.
16 people are dead after heavy rain caused rivers to suddenly rise more than 20 feet at the Albert Pike Recreation Area. That's in the Ouachita Mountains in western Arkansas, about 75 miles west of Little Rock. Emergency crews fear dozens more who are missing could also be dead.
For the hundreds of people camping at the Albert Pike Recreation Area, there was very little time as storms hit suddenly in the middle of the night. And there are very few words that can describe the level of shock, disbelief, and sadness after flash floods killed so many.
Around 4 a.m., my mom woke me up and said, "Pack your stuff, the water's like right outside the cabin." I didn't believe her at first.
The unbelievable turned to the unthinkable. Water from the Little Missouri River rose at times more than 8 feet an hour. Rushing water destroyed cabins, washed away vehicles, and swept away terrified people, many of them children.
It's in the process up right now trying to see if we have anyone to be rescued along the river there and also in the recovery stage.
Many campers who were asleep woke up to water in their tents and sleeping bags. The rugged terrain likely kept some campers from reaching safety and is now making those search and rescue efforts more difficult.
What we're faced with right now is this is a very rugged, remote area in here along the Little Missouri River.
Since much of the area is now inaccessible by road, the National Guard is using helicopters to help in the search efforts. Dozens are still missing, and the death toll could get much higher.
Dozens of people are in the hospital this evening. Another 60 had to be rescued. The bodies of the victims are being moved to funeral homes in Mena.
Recently, the University of Texas pulled the Jefferson Davis statue from its campus because of a growing irrational fear of American history. On the northwest axis of 3rd and D in the nation's capital sits the Albert Pike statue, dedicated to the leader of the southern jurisdiction of the Scottish Rite, a title Pike held for 32 years. He was also a Confederate brigadier general. He was also the chief judicial officer and Arkansas Grand Dragon of the newly formed Ku Klux Klan. This is the only statue in Washington, D.C. commemorating a Confederate soldier, much less a founding member of the Klan. In fact, Pike was said to have owned a bracelet that allowed him perpetual communication with Lucifer himself. So if the Confederate flag is being denounced and Jefferson Davis and other Confederate monuments are under consideration for removal, why does this statue still remain? Simple. Pike is highly revered by the very occultic groups in control of the puppet government installed in Washington, D.C. His 1871 letter to Illuminati mafia founder Giuseppe Mazzini predicts a succession of 3 world wars, a game plan followed to a T by the global elite. It was Pike that wrote the rituals that would create a secret society within a secret society, the 33rd degree. The 33rd degree would serve as a continuation of the Luciferian goals established by an older order known as the Order of the Palladium. All Master Masons brought into the higher degrees would have to take orders from higher Masons. This long list of initiates includes presidents, Supreme Court justices, and military leaders. It was Pike and Illuminati conspirators that infiltrated the world of Freemasonry, armed with a doctrine.
In a letter dated 22 January 1870, Mazzini wrote to Pike. Now, Albert Pike is this high Mason who wrote this, the manual, if you like, of Scottish Freemasonry. He said the following: "We must allow all of the federations to continue just as they are. It must appear as things are as they were in the beginning, with their systems, their central authorities, and diverse modes of correspondence between high grades of the same rite, organized as they are at present, but we must create a super rite, which will remain unknown, to which we will call those Masons of high degree, whom we shall select. With regard to our brothers in Masonry, these men must be pledged to the strictest secrecy. Through this supreme rite we will govern all Freemasonry, which will become the one international center, the more powerful because its direction will be unknown. Now, Albert Pike wrote a letter to Mancini, and that was dated August 15, 1871, in which he propagated that there should be a world order, a one order where all nations are under the control of one central organization. And in order to achieve this, they planned, and there are numerous quotes for this, so I've put a number on the screen because some will say, I don't trust this, I don't trust that, I don't trust the other. Here are references down there, there are references up there, there will be references in other slides, so it comes from different sources. He said, and this was, by the way, on display in the British Museum and could be seen there until it was taken away. The First World War, to overthrow the power of the Tsars in Russia, protector of orthodoxy, and bring about an atheistic communistic state. Did that happen? Yes. Now that was written long before this event. Long before this event. This was written in 1871. This war broke out in 1914. The Second World War, that's also written long before the event, to originate between Great Britain and Germany, to strengthen communism as antithesis to the Judeo-Christian culture, and bring about a Zionist state in Israel. Did it achieve this objective? Yes. In fact, after this war, Israel, in its present form, was reinstated under the protection of Britain. And then, interestingly enough, a Third World War, a Middle Eastern war involving Judaism and Islam and spreading internationally. That's fascinating. Is that on the cards, or what do you think? Certainly sounds like we are on track. Well, here's another quote, just in case people don't like that quote. Mazzini with Pike developed a plan for 3 world wars so that eventually every nation would be willing to surrender its national sovereignty to a world government. The first war was to end the Tsarist regime in Russia, the second to allow the Soviet Union to control Europe, the Third World War was to be in the Middle East between Muslim and Jews and would result in Armageddon. Interesting. Now, how were they going to do it? Let's read what Albert Pike wrote about these wars and how they were going to be unleashed. He wrote, quote, "We shall unleash the nihilist and the atheist," so the destroyer and the atheist, "and we will provoke a formidable social cataclysm which in its horror will show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism. Origin of savagery in the most bloody turmoil. Then everywhere the citizens obliged to defend themselves against the minority of revolutionaries will exterminate these destroyers of civilization, and the multitude, disillusioned with Christianity, will receive the pure light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer. The destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time." Wow, what a clever plan. So you rub the two systems which you create up against the other. You create atheism as an antithesis to the Judeo-Christian culture. You have these two clash until they rub each other up, and then out of that you will get a new world order where you have a new religion which is far more esoteric and actually honors Satan. Isn't that a rather clever plan? Well, it's very successful. That is why Ordo ab Cao is the verse, if you like, that Freemasonry uses. This is one of their documents, remember, that I photographed in a Masonic lodge.
He's now thinking about this Third World War, and it says that it will be caused by the differences between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, the Muslim Arabic world, and political Zionism, the State of Israel, mutually destroy each other. That's what it says. Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on this issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economic exhaustion. We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm in which, in all its horror, will show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism, origin and savagery, and of the most bloody turmoil. So he's against Christianity and he's against atheism. They're supposed to fight each other to the death, you see. Then, he says, everywhere the citizens obliged to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries will exterminate those destroyers of civilization and the multitude, disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will from that moment be without compass or direction, anxious for an ideal, but without knowledge where to render its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer. That's what he says. Brought finally out in the public view. So he's saying that Lucifer will finally make himself, the good guy. He's going to save the world from these atheists who don't believe in deity and from these Christians who believe in the good God. Well, so it says, this manifestation will result in the general reactionary movement which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time. Well, I don't know if it's true, but I can tell you that it sure has played into what is being carried on in the Middle East today. And it looks like everything from World War I and World War II, with the development of the State of Israel, and with the Zionist movement and the communist movement and the atheist movement, and the peppering down of persecution on the Christians of this world, it looks like that may be Lucifer's attempt at annihilation of us all, so that Lucifer will appear in the form, of course, of what the Bible calls the Antichrist, and establish peace on earth for mankind. I got news for all those Illuminatists. Their little plan will only last for 3.5 years and will be destroyed by the second coming of Jesus Christ himself.
The secret is that we have America.
Presenting to you the Prime Minister of Israel, His Excellency Benjamin Netanyahu.
There is no question whatsoever that Saddam is seeking and is working and is advancing towards the development of nuclear weapons. No question whatsoever.
And by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, are we still going to war with Iraq? And he said, oh, it's worse than that. This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran.
I feel a profound obligation to speak to you about an issue that could well threaten the survival of my country and the future of my people. Iran's quest for nuclear weapons.
Still going to war with Iraq.
And today the United States must destroy the same regime, because a nuclear-armed Saddam will place the security of our entire world at risk. And as states are collapsing across the Middle East,
Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran.
Today the Jewish people face another attempt by yet another Persian potentate to destroy us.
Well, the Greater Israel Project is all about destabilizing surrounding nations, ultimately in pursuit of this dream of Greater Israel from the Euphrates down to the Nile, all the way over to the eastern Mediterranean. This is the dream of these psychopaths, and so destabilizing governments, creating sectarian strife is all part of that menu and all part of the design to create Greater Israel.
And make no mistake about it, if and once Saddam has nuclear weapons, the terror network will have nuclear weapons.
Terrorist. It's the third time I've said that. I'll probably say it 3 more times, see? Terrorist. In my line of work, you got to keep repeating things over and over and over again.
Nuclear weapons. Clear weapon.
For the truth to sink in.
That we have America.
To kind of catapult the propaganda.
Nuclear weapons, nuclear bombs, nuclear weapons, nuclear bombs, nuclear of 100 nuclear bombs, nuclear bombs, nuclear arsenal, nuclear tinder bombs, nuclear know-how without nuclear infrastructure, bombs,
tool of terror,
and a countdown to a potential nuclear nightmare.
What do you mean support negotiation? What are we going to negotiate about? What I would say is, listen, you see that desert out there? I want to show you something. You pick up your cell phone, even at traveling rates. You pick up your cell phone, and what are they called?
Roaming charges.
You pick up your cell phone and you call somewhere in Nebraska and you say, okay, let it go. So there's an atomic weapon goes over ballistic missiles in the middle of the desert that doesn't hurt a soul. Maybe a couple of rattlesnakes and scorpions or whatever. And then you say, see, the next one is in the middle of Tehran. So we mean business. You want to be wiped out? Go ahead and take a tough position and continue with your nuclear development.
No matter on which side of the aisle you sit, you stand with Israel. We have America.
First off, all of these players, these politicians, are nothing more than puppets. They don't serve the people. There is no real democracy. They really serve the rich and powerful who run the world, and that would be the bankers who control the money supply. The bankers, of course, make huge amounts of money. Whether they make bad investments or not, wars are great for them, and ultimately they control the politicians, and that is why we see these policies. Obama and Cameron are nothing more than puppets who read the script, and the script is, we need another war.
I know that America stands with Israel. I know that you stand with Israel. We have America.
And the reason why we need another war, according to these psychopaths who are running the world, is because more and more people, despite the clueless masses who continue to be entranced by things so ridiculous as X Factor and American Idol, there is larger numbers of people around the world who are realizing the truth and beginning to recapture the capacity to think for themselves. And they can see that these people who are being put in positions of public trust are defying that trust and representing an agenda which they could never speak about openly because they're nothing more than prostitutes and nothing more than minions for the powers that be.
Before Iran completes the second stage of nuclear enrichment necessary to make a bomb, before Iran gets to a point where it's a few months away or a few weeks away from amassing enough enriched uranium to make a nuclear weapon,
the Pentagon, U.S. intelligence community, they're saying Iran does not have a nuclear bomb and hasn't decided whether or not to build a nuclear bomb.
The ideology of Iran's revolutionary regime is deeply rooted in militant Islam. And that's why this regime will always be an enemy of America.
You know, that land over there is yours. You'll go back to it one day because your fight will prevail. And you'll have your homes and your mosques back again, because your cause is right and God is on your side.
There is no question whatsoever that Saddam is seeking and is working and is advancing towards the development of nuclear weapons.
Those weapons of mass destruction got to be somewhere. Nope, no weapons over there. Maybe under here.
If you take out Saddam's regime, I guarantee you that it will have enormous
positive reverberations on the region.
Ashley Hageman says her husband Jared tried to come to grips with what he'd seen and done on 8 deployments in Iraq and Afghanistan, and told her
that there's no way that any God would forgive him, that he was going to hell. He couldn't live with that anymore.
On June 28th, Ashley says her husband took a gun and shot himself in the head on base.
And I think that people sitting right next door in Iran, young people, and many others will say, the time of such regimes, of such despots, is gone. There is a new age. Something new is happening.
Whereas Iran could soon be armed with intercontinental ballistic missiles and nuclear bombs.
And I believe that even free and unfettered inspections will not uncover these portable manufacturing sites of mass death.
Those weapons of mass destruction got to be somewhere.
And Iran's adherence to those restrictions would be supervised by international inspectors.
Nope, no weapons over there.
But here's the problem. See, inspectors document violations. They don't stop them.
Israel's the only country in the Middle East with a stockpile of nuclear weapons, but the country has never confirmed nor denied it has nuclear weapons. By shunning the 40-year-old non-proliferation treaty, Israel has not had to reject atomic arms or allow the IAEA to probe all of its nuclear sites.
The world should demand that Iran do 3 things. First, stop its aggression against its neighbors in the Middle East.
With Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran.
Second, stop supporting terrorism around the world.
I have 2 words for you: predator drones. You will never see it coming. You think I'm joking? You think I'm joking?
A man's got to do what a man's got to do. And third, stop threatening to annihilate my country, Israel.
The United States in particular, Israel and Britain are the biggest terrorists on the planet. So our little junior partners in Al-Qaeda, which is nothing more than a CIA database, thus the name Al-Qaeda, this is nothing more than a group of terrorists working together, each playing one different role, but all of them working together for the same goal, which is to maintain this hideous and sick and twisted, unjust world that we have, which is a perpetual state of war. Always one illusion, one boogeyman after another. But the fact is, Obama is nothing more than a puppet war criminal, just like his predecessor and every other U.S. president before him. So please don't tell people out there that the U.S. is not involved. It's directly involved, and it is arming people who are absolute psychopaths.
I mean, let's remember here, the people we are fighting today, we funded 20 years ago.
And today the United States must destroy the same regime because a nuclear-armed Saddam will place the security of our entire world at risk.
War criminal! War criminal! War criminal! Arrest this man! Arrest the war criminal! I wish I had some handcuffs right now to arrest this man! He is responsible for the death of millions of people! War criminal! Arrest this man! War criminal! War criminal! Arrest this man! War criminal! You're protecting a man responsible for the deaths of millions of Iraqis! Shame on you! Shame on you! Here comes the war criminal, Donald Rumsfeld! War criminal! He killed people in Iraq! War criminal! Donald Rumsfeld! War criminal!
I'll tell you one thing, unlike America, Israel seems to be able to fight wars very quickly.
We helped the mastermind the Six-Day War. The Israeli had their key defense people. We had our key defense people, and they all sat around for about a week. They plotted and planned what was going to happen in that war.
Didn't expect to be near a shooting war.
National security had the tape of the pilots, Israeli pilots, talking to their controller, saying it's an American ship. And the controller says, attack it. People don't realize they napalmed that ship.
President Johnson had personal control over the ship, parked it in the Mediterranean,
made a backroom deal with Israel to attack it with an order to kill all aboard. Then the attack on the ship was to be blamed on Egypt. The U.S. would enter the war and take over the entire Middle East.
What is your secret? Because we don't seem to have the hang of that.
The secret is that we have America.
Nah.
And America, you see, the point is that Israel, when it fights...
Iranians obviously gain nothing from a war. If nobody wants it, then why the drums of war? Why are they so loud?
There are people that want a war. I mean, do not think no one wants a war. You don't have wars unless someone wants it. And quite clearly, the Israeli government would like to see the United States smash Iran's nuclear program, which they think is creating the conditions where Iran could, with one leap forward, get a bomb. The Israeli lobby in the United States would like to see a war. They support the Israeli government. The neoconservatives do. Many Republicans do. There are many Americans who genuinely believe that if they believe Iran is moving toward a weapon, and if it is, they would favor military action to prevent it. There are a number of people that want a war.
But is there a vital threat coming from Iran as you see it?
I don't know. I don't. Look, Iran is not... Iran, I mean, during the Cold War, with due respect, Soviet Union had thousands of weapons. They could have destroyed us in an afternoon, and we could have done the same thing. I was around during the Cuban Missile Crisis. That was genuinely terrifying. But Iran doesn't frighten me, and I don't think it should frighten the American people. They don't have a bomb. They haven't made a decision to build one. They don't have the means to deliver one. And the Israelis have 300 atomic bombs.
Ah! The secret is that we have America.
Fuck! No! Help me! I'm hit! I'm hit!
The secret is that we have America.
I'm hit!
The secret is that we have America.
I'm hit!
The secret is that we have America.
We are an empire now, and when we act, we create our own reality. And while you'll study that reality, judiciously as you will, we'll act again, creating other new realities, which you can study too. And that's how these things will sort out. We're history's actors, and you, all of you, will be just left to study what we do. Karl Rove.
According to some, it's about protecting civilians.
And our resolve is clear. The people of Libya must be protected.
Others say it's about oil.
The only reason they're interested with Libya is about the oil. You think we'd be in Iraq if the major export there was broccoli?
But some are convinced intervention in Libya is all about currency, specifically Gaddafi's plan to introduce the gold dinar, a single African currency made from gold, a true sharing of the wealth.
It's one of these things that you have to plan almost in secret, because as soon as you say you're going to change over from the dollar to something else, you're going to be targeted. There were two conferences on this, one in 96 and another one in the year 2000, called the World Mataba Conference, organized by Gaddafi. And everybody was interested. I think most countries in Africa were keen.
Gaddafi didn't give up. In the months leading up to the military intervention, he called on African and Muslim nations to join together to create this new currency that would rival the dollar and euro. They would sell oil and other resources around the world only for gold dinars. It's an idea that would shift the economic balance of the world. Countries' wealth would depend on how much gold they have, not how many dollars they trade. And Libya has 144 tons of gold. The UK has double that, but 10 times the population.
If Gaddafi had an intent to try to reprice his oil or whatever else the country was selling in the global markets and accept something else as a currency, or maybe launch a gold dinar currency, any move such as that would certainly not be welcomed by the power elite today who are responsible for controlling the world's central banks. So yes, that would certainly be something that would cause his immediate dismissal and the need for other reasons to be brought forth for removing him from power.
It's happened before. In 2000, Saddam Hussein announced Iraqi oil would be traded in euros, not dollars. Sanctions and an invasion followed. Some say because the Americans were desperate to prevent OPEC from transferring oil trading in all its member countries to the euro. A gold dinar would have had serious consequences for the world financial system, but may also have empowered the people of Africa, something black activists say the US wants to avoid at all costs.
The United States should welcome the self-determination of Africans. They certainly have denied self-determination to Africans inside the United States, so we're not surprised by anything that the United States would do to hinder self-determination of Africans on the continent.
The UK's gold is kept here in a secure vault somewhere in the depths of the Bank of England. As in most developed countries, there's not enough to go around. But that's not the case in places like Libya and many of the Gulf states. A gold dinar would have given oil-rich African and Middle Eastern countries the power to turn around to their energy-hungry customers and say, sorry, the price has gone up and we want gold. Some say the US and its NATO allies literally couldn't afford to let that happen. Laura Emmett, RT, London.
وحتى لو عند العراق صعيد مارشال او باكستان عندها قنبله ذريه والهند عندها قنبله ذريه والصين وروسيا وبريطانيا وفرنسا وامريكا ما كلها عندها قنابل ذريه كلها بيدمروها كويس فندمر كل الدول اللي عندها صعيد مارشال تجي قوة أجنبية تحتل دولة عربية وتشنق رئيسها وإحنا نتفرج عليهم ونضحكوا. أبو عمار قعد في الأسر كم عام وإحنا نتفرج عليه ونعقدوا قمة بدون أبو عمار. ليش ما قلنا القمة ما تنعقدش لغاية ما يطلع أبو عمار من الأسر؟ وأخيرا سمموه وقتلوه. ليش ما نحقق نمشي لمجلس الأمن نحقق المقتل أبو عمار؟ وليش ما نحققوا في شنق صدام حسين؟ كيف يصير حرب يشنق؟ ورئيس دولة عربية عضو في الجامعة العربية. لما نتكلم عن سياسة صدام حسين والخلافة معاه السياسي ممكن كلنا مختلفين سياسيين معاه ومختلفين حتى مع بعضنا نحن الآن. ما في حاجة تجمعنا أبدا إلا القاعة هاي. ليش ما يكون فيها تحقيق في مقتل صدام حسين؟ قيادة عربية بالكامل تقتل تشنق في المشانق راح نتفرج لماذا؟ وممكن الدور جاي عليكم كلكم. نعم. ليش ما يكون فيها تحقيق في مقتل صدام حسين؟ قيادة عربية بالكامل تقتل تشنق في المشانق راح نتفرج لماذا؟ وممكن الدور جاي عليكم كلكم. نعم. ليش أمريكا قاتلت مع صدام حسين ضد الخميني؟ كان صديقها. تشيني كان صديق لصدام حسين. رامي السندي كان وزير الدفاع الامريكي لما كانوا يدمروا في العراق صديق حميم لصدام حسين واخيرا باعوه وشنقوه. حتى انتم اصدقاء امريكا نحن اصدقاء امريكا بلاش نقول انتم نحن اصدقاء امريكا كلنا قد توافق امريكا على شنقنا في يوم ما. أشكر الأخ العقيد معمر القذافي على هذه الكلمة الصريحة والواضحة.
You know, it's a shame that nobody talks about Afghanistan anymore, considering how the war is far from over and remains the longest military quagmire in U.S. history. At this point, we should be asking ourselves a very important question. Bin Laden's dead and Afghanistan's apparently ready to police themselves, so why are we still there? See, aside from U.S. troops still occupying the country, there are over 100,000 private contractors in Afghanistan. And guess what? The Pentagon can't even tell us what the hell they're doing there. But this right here might give you a clue.
It is the most unintended and awkward consequence of our military offensive here in Afghanistan. The rout by our Marines of the Taliban from their former stronghold here in Helmand Province has put us in the weird position of being protectors of the largest crop of opium in the world.
Thanks, Geraldo. And guess what, guys? The Taliban had banned and almost completely eradicated opium in Afghanistan shortly before the U.S. invaded. Just look at these headlines. The corporate media was even lauding the Taliban's success. Fast forward to today, where over 90% of the world's heroin originates from the war-torn country. According to a report from the UN Office on Drugs and Crime, this year saw opium production surge to a record high. The report said that the harvest this May resulted in 5,500 metric tons of opium, 49% higher than last year, and more than the combined output of the rest of the world. Wow, that's a lot of heroin and a lot of money being made. Someone's got to be reaping the spoils, which brings us back to war, which has always been about two things: resources and control. As reported by Global Research back in 2005, heroin is a multi-billion-dollar business supported by powerful interests, which requires a steady and secure commodity flow. One of the hidden objectives of the war was precisely to restore the CIA-sponsored drug trade to its historical levels and exert direct control over the drug routes. Of course, according to Geraldo, it's nothing more than an uncomfortable fluke that the U.S. military happens to be guarding the largest opium supply in the world. I guess we're also supposed to believe that this discovery of Afghanistan's $1 trillion worth of untapped minerals was a surprise coincidence. In today's globalized world, one can't discount the role that multinational corporations play in U.S. foreign policy decisions. Not only have oil companies and private military contractors made a killing off the occupation, Big Pharma, which collectively lobbies over $250 million annually to Congress, needs opium latex to manufacture drugs for this pill-happy nation. Don't forget about the banks. See, trillions in black market sales are being funneled through banks, and this money has got to come out clean on the other side. Support for the ongoing war may not be high, but believe me, these corporations are in it for the long haul. See, a strategic pact that will allow a U.S. troop presence to remain in Afghanistan until 2024 has already been signed. So baseless rhetoric and propaganda aside, here's the cold, hard truth. This government is fighting a war on drugs worldwide, with millions of nonviolent drug users rotting away in prison. Yet on the other hand, the U.S. is at the very least nurturing the largest source of the deadliest and most addictive drug on the planet. So you tell me what the occupation of Afghanistan is really about.
Welcome back to Fox and Friends. Dave Briggs, he's Clayton Morris, she's Allison Camerata. We're going to head to Afghanistan this morning. One of the biggest obstacles in front of the U.S. troops there in Afghanistan is the opium trade. The Taliban is using it to intimidate the population.
Yeah. Joining us from Helmand Province is Geraldo Rivera. Good morning to you, Geraldo. Tell us what you've seen during your days there in Afghanistan.
Hi, Allison, Dave, and Clayton. Yes, in some ways, the Marines' brilliantly executed invasion of Marja, this town in the middle of Helmand Province, was the easy part. The hard part now is governing this province, a province, as you suggest, that has become addicted to opium in many, many ways. That is the principal crop that is being grown here. The Taliban lend the farmers the money. They are indebted to the Taliban. They have to grow the opium. Now the Marines, in their success, are in a sense a victim of their success, because now the population is, they have these opium fields, and we are tolerating it. We are tolerating the cultivation of the opium because we know that if we were to destroy it now, the population would turn against the Marines, and it would be a real security risk. Let me introduce Lieutenant Colonel Brian Christmas. He's the commanding officer of the 3rd Battalion, 6th Marines. Really a wonderful group of Marines here. I know that you care deeply about this contradiction, the fact that here you have one of the best fighting forces in the world ever mounted, and in a sense you're watching as this opium is being grown. I know it grinds at your gut. How do you deal with it? What are you doing about it?
Well, frankly, this is a part of their culture. So while it might grind in my gut, it's what they do. We provide them security, we're providing them resources, and we're providing them alternatives. And the alternatives are different crops to grow. They're getting the seed and the fertilizer to do it. They can rotate any of their crops that they want. If they want to get rid of their wheat and grow cotton for the winter, they can do that, and we're going to help them do it. So the same thing goes for the poppy.
So you think that, we were at the market, and everywhere we go, they're selling these little devices. Take a shot at this, Greg. They're hand-carved. These are the little devices they use to scrape the opium sap off the plant. And I watched as you bought every one that was for sale because you care so deeply. Why did you do that?
I want them off the street. The idea is that we don't want to harvest the poppy. We want to, hopefully turn the poppy over and put some wheat, cotton, watermelon, cucumber. It's all great stuff they grow out here. We just want to see that come to fruition and the poppy just to go away.
How do you separate the good guys from the bad guys? I watched that checkpoint you had. The cars are out on the road. That's the good news. The bazaars are coming back to life. That's the good news. But I don't know, how in the world do you tell a Taliban from a guy who just lives in the neighborhood?
You don't. They do. And I'll tell you, the majority of those people are good people. The ones that are bad are really bad, and they've convinced some of the good people to be bad. You can follow that. Bottom line is, most of them are on the fence, and it's just a matter of showing them the good, showing them the fact that the Gero government is here. It's going to make a difference, that we're here to help them with that security and those resources, but they're the ones that are going to make the difference. There are a few bad people. The majority of them are good.
But I really, I fault the politicians for putting the Marines in this position, where we can't eradicate these crops for security reasons, and these guys, after winning the war, in a sense, now have to fight this fight. But next year, hopefully it'll be better. I just want to quickly pan around, see some of the 3rd Battalion, 6th Marines. There's the Master Gunnery Sergeant, there's the top ranked enlisted man. Next to him is Captain Black. He had a visit. Quick, who visited you a couple of weeks ago?
Prince Charles came down a couple of weeks ago.
And the Brits like him? I mean, do you guys like him?
Yeah, it's good that he came out, saw the guys, went out to the bobs and engaged with the guys. That was good. Good morale.
So we had a visit from Prince Charles, and the Marines are doing the good thing. Dave, Clayton, and Allison, back to you guys in New York.
Thank you so much,
Geraldo. Thanks so much. I mean, he just explains it better than we can ever read in any paper. What a dilemma it is with the opium trade.
And they make so much money off the opium per yard there. They make so much money compared to those other crops. So it sounds great in theory, and Geraldo says this predicament that these politicians have put these guys in to have to tell them, hey, make a lot less money than the heroin you could be making with the poppy.
And they can't destroy it.
Right.
What a difficult position.
All right, in the meantime, I do have your headlines for you.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow so pretty in the sky are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry. I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I never knew. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
This is a breaking news alert. Pope Francis on Saturday morning called the terrorist attacks on Paris part of the, quote, Third World War. Francis made the statement during a Saturday phone interview with TV 2000 at the Italian Bishops' Conference. As of this report, the Islamic State has claimed responsibility for the reported 128 people confirmed dead and more than 180 wounded. The terrorist attacks targeted bars, restaurants, a concert hall, and a football stadium in the heart of Paris on November 13. Around 80 people are currently listed in critical condition. Eyewitnesses reported hearing the terrorists cry out Allahu Akbar, Arabic for God is great. The Islamic State terrorists carried out the siege with suicide bombs and semi-automatic weapons. French President François Hollande has called the attacks, quote, an act of war by ISIS and vowed to lead the planet in World War III. We'll continue to monitor these developments as more information becomes available. Please distribute this to your social networks, and as always, we welcome your input in the comments below. This has been a Next News Network breaking report.
Review time, Pot! Okay, so you got the knowledge and understanding with the Breaking Bullcrap episode 1 and 2. So now it's time to use it. You get this bullcrap shooting right here. Another fake terror event in Paris within the same year, which means they are desperate with this agenda. Now, if you have seen Breaking Bullcrap episode 1, you should know the fact that Al-Qaeda, aka ISIS, is created by the West and works for the interests of the West and Israel to bring about the New World Order agenda. In a New World Order, there will be total control and monitoring over the citizens around the world. What happened? U.S. blamed Al-Qaeda for 9/11, and because of that, they were allowed to pass the Patriot Act, which was written before 9/11, by the way, as well as the creation of the TSA, and the continual abuse of the NSA is justified because of the West puppet Al-Qaeda. That's not a conspiracy, that is a fact. ISIS is Al-Qaeda, which was admitted by John Kerry, and they participated in the Charlie Hebdo shooting earlier this year, which was proven to be 100% fake. So there's no reason why the same puppets would all of a sudden be in a real terror event. ISIS is the same people who do fake beheadings, so the West can justify boots on the ground in the East. From every attack from the puppet ISIS, the West gets its agenda pushed through and supported. They would hope on a worldwide scale, though. This is why you see CIA John Brennan meeting with French intelligence director Bernard Bachelet on, look at the date, October 29th, 2015, talking about the panel for the shared 21st century international mission. This is why you also see the fake ISIS attack happen in Paris 15 days later on Friday, the 13th of November. That is no mistake. Then you hear Obama coming out saying the scripted lines, once again, we've seen an outrageous attempt to terrorize innocent civilians. This is an attack not on just Paris. It's an attack not on just the people of France. But this is an attack on all of humanity and the universal values that we share. We're going to have to do whatever it takes to work with the French people and with nations around the world to bring these terrorists to justice. and to go after any terrorist networks that go after our people. Y'all ain't ready for this. When is the G20 Leaders Summit? I'm looking. Hold on, let me see. I'll save you some time. Tomorrow, November 15th through the 16th. That's not a mistake. Because you see here, France attacks to dominate agenda at G20 conference in Turkey. That's right, straight up bullcrap. So they want us to believe that the puppet ISIS is terroristically savvy enough to pull off attacks in 5 different locations in Paris. And the French intelligence didn't even have the slightest clue it was going to happen, by the way. And yet they just so happened to do the attacks right before the G20 meeting between leaders who you can be 100% sure would be arguing and coming up with a plan to eliminate them. That would be stupid. But that's why you have to understand ISIS is a puppet of the West, and as always, they give them the key to pull off the New World Order agenda. This attack would help silence those in opposition to the West invading Syria. For example, if Putin has opposition, he would look bad and he would be outnumbered by the so-called other leaders by saying, "But we must do something. This is an attack against humanity." Humanity being the New World Order Age of Aquarius buzzword. And through this, they hope to get what they've been wanting to do for some time now, and that's to topple Assad and put in a Western puppet who would fashion Syria in the image of the New World Order territories. The Western New World Order territories hate Syria for the following reasons. Syria's central bank is state-owned and controlled. Syria has no IMF debt. That's the International Monetary Fund, aka major tool for the New World Order. Syria has banned genetically modified GMO seeds. That's lab-created fake food that causes cancer and other sicknesses to kill off the population for the New World Order depopulation agenda. Syria's population is well informed about the New World Order, so the West hopes to reprogram them. Syria also has massive oil and gas reserves, which is much like Iraq, Libya, Kuwait, the Falklands, and Afghanistan. And now you can see history repeat itself because Al-Qaeda, known as ISIS, were the ones who helped the West invade Iraq and Afghanistan. It's the same game. Also, they clearly oppose Zionism and Israel, and the New World Order territories can't have that. So you're seeing these fake attacks because they want their agenda passed. And I don't care if you get mad if I call it fake. But there's bodies on the ground. So, there were bodies on the ground at the Boston bombing hoax. All they did was just put covers on these. What about the blood on the ground? They used fake blood on the ground in the Boston bombing hoax and Charlie Hebdo. So it's possible they just got real blood somehow and put it on the ground and on the people. Regardless, this is just another fake attack. When you see jokers on the ground faking injuries, chilling on a cell phone, you know it's fake. When they tell you, "Oh, we found the magic passport from the bodies of the suicide bombers," you know it's fake. When you see pictures like these hugged up jokers right here, you know it's fake. Because they ain't really sad and they ain't traumatized. They posing for a dang picture. And when you see ISIS Al-Qaeda help the West with their New World Order agenda again, you know it's fake. Paris under attack. Who really attacking Paris? It's not a mistake that they were listening to the Baphomet shirt wearing guy here. Then Paris attacker saying, "This is for Syria," which means we would have to go after Syria. A French man was identified as an attacker, so now France will go after its own citizens by passing laws to monitor and control them. They aren't to care because they are hypnotized by the fake event. You can just watch them sing the French national anthem after the attacks. That's the equivalent of a large group of people singing the American national anthem after escaping the Boston bombing or any other event for that matter. There was an Egyptian passport found there, so now there's an excuse to go into Egypt. They created the problem. Now they offer the solution. Red, silver, J, all I gotta say.
This is a breaking news alert. A law enforcement official has identified Syed Farouk as one of the suspects in a mass shooting in Southern California. The official, who was briefed on the case, was not authorized to speak to the media about the ongoing investigation and spoke on condition of anonymity. Police officers named Syed Farouk in their radio communications during the pursuit. According to the Daily Beast, Farouk, who also went by his middle name, Raheel, was a business taxes representative for the California State Board of Equalization, according to his LinkedIn profile. He is a 2003 graduate La Sierra High School, and most recently studied finance at California State University Fullerton until 2013. According to NBC News, Sayed and a man believed to be Farouk's brother are the two males involved in the tragic shooting. Along with Sayed and Farouk's brother was a woman, but her name hasn't been released at this time. According to the New York Daily News, Sayed was very much into his faith, with Farouk leaving work to pray and returning, quote, he was very religious. He would go to work, come back, go to pray, come back. He's Muslim. Police reported 2 suspects, a man and a woman, were killed in a gun battle with police after the shooting at the Inland Regional Center in San Bernardino. Police say another person who was spotted running near the gun battle was detained, but they have said it is unclear if that person had anything to do with the shooting. We'll provide more details as information becomes available. Please distribute this to your social networks. And as always, we welcome your input in the comments below. This has been a Next News Network breaking news alert.
Hey Truth Seekers, welcome back. Zach here. I just got done making a video on the San Bernardino shooting hoax, showing how all the Freemason signatures are present. What I missed was this CNN interview. If you doubt it is the Freemasons who are rigging these shooting hoaxes, controlling our police departments, and controlling our media, let this be the information that changes your mind. Here we go. Now, if you're not familiar, Truth Seeker, that symbol right there, the square and compass with the G in the middle, that is the symbol of the Freemasons. In the video I just put out, I got done explaining the significance of that symbol. This symbol is shown all over police badges and patches all over this nation. The Freemasons are the invisible architects of society. They believe in conquering through dividing. All of these stories are their propaganda. This is who needs to be held responsible. And just look at how arrogant it's getting. Having their witness go before the news, wearing their baseball cap with their emblem front and center.
He works inside there in the facility, and he says that the alarms went off and they were all told to hunker down and hide and shelter in place. And he says that eventually the police came by, took them out. He never heard any gunshots or anything like that. Right now they're all by the railroad tracks. He says they're getting ready to load them in. The police have told them that they're going to load them into buses and take them off. So I'm assuming to be interviewed.
Did he call you or text you? How did you get
texting back and forth?
What did his first text say?
That something was going on, that there was live shooters in the building, and that police were outside and they could see him out there, you know, running around trying to figure out what was going on.
Did he see anyone injured?
He did not, no.
What does he do in the building?
He works payroll for all the employees.
What floor is he on?
He's first floor.
And he didn't see anyone come in?
No, they're in a kind of an isolated little area because of the payroll, so they're kind of off away from everybody else.
Can you tell me once again about what you know about what happened in there today?
From what I understand, there was 3 shooters that went in. He said he didn't hear or see any of them, but the reports that I've been getting is that there were 3 shooters in there. Supposedly they've taken off and left in some type of ES.
There it was, Truth Seeker. Freemason symbolism, undeniable.
Thank you. Local Muslim leaders are offering condolences to the family of journalist Steven Sotloff. Members of the Council on American Islamic Relations denounced Sotloff's murder tonight, saying the actions of ISIS have nothing to do with their faith.
As Muslims, we declare unequivocally that the barbaric conduct of ISIS is an outright violation of Islam and its teachings. It's morally repellent and it's cruel.
The executive director of CARE LA called for justice for the deaths of Steven Sotloff and James Foley.